You can tell a lot about a school based on the numbers. The graphs, the charts, the data, they all give some kind of narrative about a school community. Numbers and spreadsheets are fine for the reports and the accountability and the records, but they don't capture the actual energy of what's happening in our schools. They don't show the grit, the imagination, or the sheer talent that I see every time I walk through our buildings. I am Dr. Xanthi Karamanos, proud superintendent of Leonia Public Schools, and this is Leading Leonia. This podcast gives an authentic look at the people who drive this community forward, our students who will change the world, our staff who are building the environments they learn in, and the community who's working right alongside us. We're here to show you the real work, the honest, the innovative, and the sometimes surprising work that it takes to build a school community we can all be proud of. Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of our Leonia podcast. We're really excited for today's episode because today I have my very first staff member on the podcast. I'm really excited to be here sitting next to Miss Kelty, who is one of our high school teachers. And we'll get to talk a little bit about her experience, what it's like teaching in Leonia, and learn a little bit about her world. So welcome, Ms. Kelty.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really genuinely excited to be here.
Oh, great. I'm also really excited to have you. We're probably going to hear the word excited a lot in this.
Okay, I'll go with it.
Yeah. No, you're the first staff member here. I appreciate you accepting the invitation, right? Because being on a podcast could kind of be a little nerve-wracking sometimes.
So I have to tell you, when I got the initial email, like, would you like to come? I was like, yes. I was so excited. I texted my family and they're like, who wants you to be on a podcast? I'm like, it's my school district. And they were like, oh, that's so nice. And I'm like, yes, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah. And, it was great because Miguel was one of our first students who was one of our first guests. And Miguel is the producer of our podcast, right? He created this whole podcast for us. So what I do is I ask the guests at the end, which you'll get the same question, who would you suggest to be the next guest on the podcast? And he said, Miss Kelty. So that's where it all started. And then we've just been evolving ever since. It's great to have you. I look forward to what you're going to share with us. You bring a totally different perspective too, to just traditional teaching, which a lot of our teachers do. But one thing that I love about you that I've learned over the years is just how out of the box you are with your thinking and how you view the world of teaching. So I'm excited to get into it, and I'm going to stop talking so I can let you start talking. So let's kick off. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and the basics.
Right. So the behind the scenes of Miss Kelty is, I don't remember a point in my life where I didn't want to be a teacher, except there was this short period of time I thought I was going to go to law school and I was going to be a prosecutor. Usually a lot of people laugh when they hear me say that. But history and teaching, to me, it's one and the same. It's how do you expose kids to the world? And my background was at Marist University, majoring in history and doing education. But part of my experience there was going to do research, taking like the small independent trips, doing a semester abroad, which plays out in like the international trips that I do, the historians and democracy trips. But my education at Marist as an undergrad and even as a graduate student was, how do you think critically about everything that's in front of you? And the education part was, this is what the traditional teaching world looks like, but we don't have that traditional world anymore. So how can you be alone in your classroom? How do you reflect on what you're doing really well, but also improve on? And that's really my foundation of teaching and pedagogy. You can read 100 books. You can think critically about everything, but ultimately the most important source in front of me is my students. Mm-hmm. Speaking with them, figuring out what they like to learn, what interests them, because what I'm interested in may not be what they're interested in.
Right.
And that's totally acceptable. And I love sharing experiences, getting to know them. What is their experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's where we build connections, right? There's so much research behind the importance of building relationships with kids in order to get them engaged in that content, right? And, the fact that Miguel listed you as his first reference for a guest on the show really shows that relationship that you've built with the students. So every educator has like that spark moment, thinking about your journey or thinking about even like you said you've always wanted to be a teacher for a while, but thinking about like your current, have you ever had a moment where you're like, oh, this is it. This is why I do what I do. This exact moment right here. This is why I do what I do.
So to be honest, if I had to pick, I couldn't, because just the whole career being here in Leonia, it's just the constant reinforcement of like, this is why I do it. It's having Miguel reach out to me to do this, but it's also taking those opportunities in class where you have the kids who don't always want to speak and they're saying, Miss Kelty, can we talk about what just happened in Iran? Because we're doing our peace treaty project and I want to talk to you about it because I'm so confused by what's happening, but I need to learn more about it. It's the constant building of those connections, but also I do what I do because my kids are engaged and kids in Leonia make me want to come to work. Like, you don't get that in many other districts. And I love having those connections with kids. And I love just having them be excited about something. They're like, yeah, can we please talk about what's happening in the world today? I'm like, yes, please. I will gladly talk to you about what's happening in the world today. So it's not just one moment, but it's been a career of consistent moments. I know Miguel was with me when we went to Normandy a few years ago. We had so much fun. We were at the Eiffel Tower until midnight. The kids are running to take pictures. They're like, can we get a croissant? I'm like, kids, it's 2 a.m. We need to go back to the hotel now. We got to get up early. And then a few days later, we're having these really powerful moments about sacrifice at Normandy. And it's just all those moments together is what makes it really come full circle for me.
So how long have you been in Leonia?
10 years.
Was this your first?
So this was my first full-time job at the high school. I started in another district as a leave replacement. Then I applied to the middle school on the last day of a job application being open, and it just worked out.
Okay.
And then, I may have told you this story. When I first came to the middle school, I was like, I never want to teach middle school again. My student teaching experience in a middle school was horrendous.
Yeah.
And I remember leaving crying the last day because I was like, I really like it here. I really wish I could stay. And then Tim Cullen called me and he's like, we have a position open. Would you like to come in? Just get your application in. We'll talk to Dr. Bertolini, who was principal at the time. I said, sure. And then it just all worked out and I've been here ever since.
I believe everything happens the way it should and in the time that it should. So that all really worked out. I always find it funny too that so every teacher that whatever they teach, they always think I could never teach the other grade, right? Like I, as an elementary school teacher, could not imagine teaching middle school or high school. Like, it's just a totally different world for me, right?
Elementary school is my worst nightmare. When I was subbing, and I remember just taking the day jobs, even in my hometown, I'm like, please don't let there be an elementary school today. Please let there be a middle school or high school position.
Yeah. But then those elementary school teachers are thinking the exact same thing, right? But, that's true because it's what we're passionate about, right? It's where we really feel comfortable. But, all right. So, listen, as if being a innovative high school teacher wasn't enough, you're also pursuing your doctorate degree, right?
Yes.
What's your big vision for taking this on? What have you been learning at the doctoral level that you have, used to lead your classroom, your department, used to bring back to the students of Leonia?
So my major focus has been how to improve reading and writing instruction in history, because the one aspect of historical learning kids struggle with is how do we use primary sources from people 200 years ago? And the struggle for some of the historical topics emerges when documents are translated or they're shortened just to get to the point. So I decided to take it on because this was something I was passionate about. I wanted kids to start thinking about how can they love the Declaration of Independence? How do they love the French Revolution the way I do? And it's really engaging through sources, because the most important thing I could teach a kid is not when the French Revolution happened. They can go on Google, but it's teaching them to think about how does this impact my world? How does this impact my understanding? And let them form their own opinions. So I wanted to create resources that would surround that. And that's really what my focus has been on. I want to go through the curriculums and see, hey, what tools can we use as a department that if I have 5 years experience, I have 15 years, or I've just been doing this 5 days and I don't really know how to teach this. What can we use to help kids, or how do we help struggling students throughout the process? So it's really about thinking about what we have and what we do well and just changing it to get kids more engaged.
Tell me a little bit about your sabbatical.
Okay.
This is for the viewers. Obviously,
No,
I know
okay.
your sabbatical.
So I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited for you. It's going to be a good learning opportunity.
So the whole thing really started like on a whim. If I had to ever define my career, it's like I dreamed it. I thought about it. I finally plucked up the courage to ask somebody about it. So one of my professors at Purdue did like a 2-week study abroad program for her doctoral program. So over the summer, I was like, let me just email her, ask if the program's still around, see if I could go on my own. And then she told me the program wasn't around anymore, but she knew somebody who still was involved with the school. So I'm going to be going to Italy next May. And the plan is to observe Italian schools, the Liceo system. So Italy's system is really cool because it's broken up into 3 different schools, like more of an engineering tech school, a science-based school, very similar to what we have at the high school, and then a school of humanities, which is what I'm a part of here at Leonia. And what I want to observe is how are they engaging their students throughout the reading and writing process, but how are they also preparing them for an oral exam? Because these kids will spend 4 or 5 years basically getting ready to defend their work. So at any point, they might need to bring in something from Machiavelli, or they had to bring in Plato, they had to bring in Giuseppe Manzini. So I'm really just interested to see how they do this. How do they get kids passionate about history and English the way sometimes we struggle with in American schools? Because when I used to teach US 1, kids are like, Miss Kelty, this is so boring. I'm like, no, we got to get it exciting. How do you get kids passionate about John Adams? How do you get kids passionate about Abigail Adams? And that's really what I want to explore, is what are they doing that we can bring back here?
Do you have any thoughts or,
I definitely think the way we approach our engagement process is going to be different. I think we have to think about the sources we're using. We also have to work on teaching kids to connect with people who lived hundreds of years ago, which is very hard when we're in how many streaks did I get on Snapchat with this person?
Right.
How do we engage them when they're worried about their Instagram followers? And I think really transforming the society and the questions about how do we engage learning, not how do we engage them through social media, is going to be a part of this.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see when you come back, to see what comes of it. I think that's also work that can span across departments, right? You talk a lot about history, but we talk about it. We have to talk about engaging kids across all departments. So that'll be interesting.
And that's the one thing when I've worked with other teachers, I always tell them, don't just stay in our department. Go to other departments. I didn't get really comfortable doing certain lessons until I observed teachers in science or English. Right. I observed some math teachers, and those were really valuable lessons when I first started. Because sometimes the way a math teacher will structure a lesson is the way you need to structure it within your own field. Of course, you don't want me teaching algebra 2.
Right.
You definitely don't want that. But it's about learning from your peers. They have so many different ideas.
Yep.
So we tend to just stick in that traditional box.
Yep.
But you have to move beyond the box. That's the only way I've actually grown as a teacher, is seeing people outside of my department.
Absolutely. And that's something we've been pushing at the district level, is a little bit more collaboration, right? Getting people to think more outside of their silos, right?
Right. So Dr. Lee at the high school is a friend of mine, and I was telling him I'm trying to teach AP Euro, the scientific revolution, and the kids are never that engaged with it. I'm like, I don't understand why. So I said, Nick, do you have any suggestions? I want to do this. I want to take the volcano experiment that you maybe did in elementary school, vinegar and baking soda, and get them to do observations. And he's like, Lauren, you got to put some music on in the background. Here, go take a lab coat, put the lab coat on, work with the lab coat. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, and make sure it makes a mess.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, oh, great, now I got to clean up the baking soda and the vinegar. No, it's not a big deal, but he's like, let them observe it and write down their observations. He goes, have fun with it. Who cares if it makes a mess? Yeah. He goes, but don't put too much of a mess on it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, I'm like, you're right, I shouldn't let them make a mess. Let's go back to early childhood where they're playing and exploring.
Right, but it was using their hands,
yes.
Right, not their swipes.
But it was amazing because when I did it, they're observing, and then we looked at primary sources. I'm like, what do you notice? And then the stuff they pulled was so much deeper. Then we started watching part of a documentary, and they're all watching it, and I'm like, wait a minute. They're all watching this. They're not arguing with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is amazing. But it's having those conversations with your colleagues that can really transform something so simple into something very powerful.
Yeah. And we've got amazing staff here. You've got amazing colleagues. We've got amazing across the district, right? They're phenomenal teachers and all overall staff, counselors, child study team. Our paraprofessionals are amazing. Like, we've got such amazing staff that there's so much to learn from the people around us that we don't need outside people to come in.
No.
We're all good here. We got lots to learn between each other. So, we talked a little bit about how you teach history and how it's often different from, the traditional classroom. What's one innovative risk that you took other than the volcano, right? Because I know that was a really good, but you kind of stole my question here. What's one innovative risk you took in the classroom that really paid off with student engagement?
You won't find this in a textbook, but it's getting over your fear of making a mistake.
Okay.
And it's really important that you take the innovative risk of not always giving kids a lot of structure, which is sometimes what they tell you to always do in early education when you're starting, like, make sure everything is very structured. There's also like learning how to not give structure. So when I started in Leonia, my second year, I was teaching US 1, and I was reading about having kids do history journals. I'm like, okay. And it explains like how it would help kids on an AP exam. It would help your quiet kids engage. It's great for writing. So I said to the kids, these are some things that you can do, but basically do whatever you want. And the kids are looking at me. They're like, we can write about whatever you want. I said, just has to come back to history. So if, let's just say over spring break, you go to Lexington and Concord, you want to write about that, go ahead. And I'm like, bring in current events, bring in whatever you want. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it's got to be a page, double space, just make sure the grammar's clean. And they're like, okay. And I was so nervous because I'm like, what are these kids going to come up with? Like, because you don't know what they're going to write. And I was doing it with my freshmen too. And I'm like, but what are they going to write? We talk about so many things. And I'm like, well, if a kid says something inappropriate, 9 years later, they haven't done anything inappropriate. But it's amazing to see what they come up with. One of the kids wrote this year, he wrote about his great-grandfather. And his great-grandfather was on a ship in the Pacific during World War II. And he was on the ship that brought the atomic bomb to Japan. And what was so cool is, like, when I read it, I go to the bottom and I see a link and I'm like, what does this kid have here? And it's an interview that his great-grandfather did. And it was just so cool to see. And then you're seeing, like, this older gentleman, like, oh my God, he looks just like him. And it was just so cool. And it's one of those risks, like, you don't know what they're going to say.
Right.
And it's really scary because it's not structured. How do you tell somebody they did a good job on something where you just want them to write?
Right.
But it was so amazing because the kids started saying, wait, can I bring this up in my next journal? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, kids. You can bring this up in your next journal. They're like, oh, okay. Wait, but I've talked about the Second Amendment twice. Should I talk about something else? I'm like, if this is what you're passionate with, go with it.
Right.
And that's the one thing. It's like, sometimes innovation's not always changing like what we do. It's just part of like how we feel in the classroom and how we open ourselves up. And I think that's the one thing teachers struggle with, is letting kids see us as people. Let them see us as people. Let them see us as, wait a minute, this is somebody I could relate to, or wait, can I ask her if I can do this? Having those relationships. And like, when I went to Catholic school, you didn't have those types of relationships with some of your teachers. I didn't even have some of those relationships with people I went to college with in terms of like my professors, because there was always that barrier. But being innovative, it's just not always changing the assignment. It's giving them the opportunity to take the risk. That's how you create the new thinkers.
Absolutely. I like that you said, we said part of a textbook, right? And taking a risk is a huge lesson that we need to be able to teach kids, and that's definitely not something in a textbook, right? That's not something HMH is going to write in their curriculum documents, right?
No.
Right? But that's a huge skill for our kids, especially now, to be able to, with all the social emotional learning going on in the world, and the stress that is on them, to be able to know that it's okay and it's safe for them to take a risk is huge. And then giving them that voice to be able to say and write what they want. Like, our kids have amazing things to say, and they have, Miguel, I refer back to Miguel because he's here, but also like he's done really good work this year. He's been in rooms with, important people, right? The board president, he's been in rooms with the police chief, he's been in rooms, and he brings value to the conversation that we wouldn't have that perspective if a student like him, or if a student in general wasn't in that room and wasn't in that conversation. And our students deserve that opportunity.
And when you constantly give them too much structure, then they don't know how to speak to the chief of police or the board president, because they're like, but where's my thesis statement? You don't need that for this. Just talk about it. You're going to use the skills that we teach you. And there's a time and a place for the 5-paragraph essay.
Of course, yes.
There's also a time for freedom. So being innovative is about finding that risk moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You said it. That was great. I feel like we could keep talking about that forever, but we've got a few more other questions.
To go.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about your trips. So you take some really incredible trips, and I, as a traveler, I love all the places you've gone to. Why do you do that, right? Because it's outside of your normal job scope, right? It's outside of your requirement as a teacher, right? But why is it so important for you to get kids out of the building and into the world?
I mean, world traveler too. I love all of it, but I love when kids are saying, wait a minute, Miss Kelty, this is where and I remember doing this with Miguel. We were in one of the churches in France, and the tour guide said to me, he's like, oh, do you see all this writing? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, do you know what it says? I'm like, no, I only speak English, typical American. I only know one language. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, this is from when we had the cult of the Supreme Being, and the Catholic Church basically got kicked out of France. And I remember showing Miguel, and that's why I love doing it. It's the relationships you have with kids where you're getting them to explore something outside what they've always known. Some of the kids I took to Ireland in 2023, some of them had never been on a plane before. Mm-hmm. In France, it was one of my students' 18th birthday. He had never been on a plane before. And then I just thought it was amazing, because when we were getting ready to come home, we were checking all the kids in. He's like, okay, Miss Kelty, I know how to do it. I'm going to help everybody else. Mm-hmm. So it's the joy of seeing them like, wait, Miss Kelty, let's have a gelato. Let's take a selfie. But getting them to experience the world outside of Leonia and Edgewater, getting them to see wait a minute, this is really cool. But I kind of like the way we do things here better. Or can we start working on having more gelato stands every 5 feet in Leonia? I'm like, yes, I'm all about that.
All about it. I'm in.
Yep. But it's just getting them to engage and see what else is out there. When I think about how I started my career, very traditional, it has not been traditional by any means. I have a few family members that are teachers, and they're like, you have the most untraditional teaching career ever. And I'm like, yeah, but it's amazing. Yeah. And, that's why I do it, because I also want kids to see, it was a risk starting all of this. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if at the time Dr. Bertolini and Mr. Callender would approve it. And they were like, oh, yeah, we can do it. And I was kind of shocked. And then we started it after COVID, and I was really nervous about it after everything that just happened. And I'm like, all right, we're going to get through this. I just got to get on the plane. Yeah. But it's amazing when you see kids start to look at the world very differently, and they realize there's more to life than just Bergen County. Actually, one of my students, she graduated last year. She went to Amsterdam. She's going to be there all 4 years. She goes, oh, wow. Wait, I'm doing this because of everything that you did. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. I still need an invitation to come visit her. Right. Now I got a plan.
Yeah. now you have a tour guide, right?
Nothing but the best.
Yeah. And you've been on a few trips, right? You tell the audience where you've gone.
So we've done Ireland, which was amazing. I would always recommend it. People don't give it enough credit. Then we did France, we did Paris, but that was a World War II focused trip, seeing the D-Day invasion for the 80th anniversary. Then last year we went to Italy for a week, which I absolutely love. I can go to Italy every year.
That's how I'm about Paris. I love Paris.
I love Paris too.
Yeah.
Love all the shopping in Paris as much as the history.
Yes, but the architecture, my husband and I love the architecture in Paris. It's beautiful. The streets, it just feels so classic European.
And it's one of those places you can go so many times, and there's always a new museum to go to.
Absolutely.
My friends and I, we're always sharing things on Instagram. We're like, can we go here? And they're like, Lauren, we don't have 5 weeks just to spend in Paris. And I'm like,
why not?
I'm like, why can't you all just be teachers like me and have the summers off? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, that's a bad career move on your part.
Yeah. And then this year we're going to
Germany. So I'm very excited. We'll start off in Berlin and we'll leave from Munich, but it's amazing because now it's been 80 years since the end of the Second World War. So it's going to be interesting to see how Germany remembers World War II compared to the way Americans look at it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one of the things I'm very interested in seeing. I was actually saying to somebody today, I got to watch the new Nuremberg film before we go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And for me, I've done a lot of traveling, World War II focused traveling in Eastern Europe, having been to some of the Nazi concentration camps and some of the other sites impacted by World War II. So I'm very interested to see where it actually started because I personally have never been able to go to Germany. I've driven through it, but I've never been able to really visit. So it's going to be interesting to see it from really where it started and how did the Germans talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Can you give us a sneak peek of where you're going next year, or you don't want to say yet?
They drink a lot of tea.
Oh, okay.
We're going to England.
Okay, all right.
That is the plan. I'm excited to do London.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a World War II focus there always, but as well as some World War I. And I always try and bring up different areas of history wherever we go. But that will be really exciting for some of the kids.
Yeah. No, yeah. England. I studied in London for a year when I was in college.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a great city. It's a perfect city for just being in that time.
Harrods is the best place to go shopping?
Well, other than Paris, yes.
Well, you have to go to Florence at some point.
That's true. That's on my list. Yes.
A little bit down the road, we might be going to Florence again, Leonia High School.
You let me know, yeah?
I'll let you know.
So speaking of Leonia, so let's focus a little bit more on Leonia now. If you could see something in our hallways or in our curriculum that, if you had a magic wand and you could see anything in our hallways or in our curriculum, whether it's an energy, a resource, a type of learning, what would it be?
I would love to see murals in the hallways.
Okay.
I know our colors are maroon and gray, but I'd like a little less gray. Maybe some brighter colors in the hallways.
Okay.
But I would love to see like student government-based bulletin boards where students are putting up their flyers for their clubs so things are a little bit more organized. I'd love to get a little bit more information about what the kids are doing in terms of some of their sports and some of the clubs, the events that are coming up. There's things like that in terms of curriculum, just giving kids more freedom. That's what I would love to see. Because the kids really surprise when you give them freedom, what they can do is incredible. I mean, this podcast is a great example of when you give a kid freedom.
Yeah.
Well, young man, Miguel, when you give them freedom, what can they really do? And they'll surprise you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on the opposite side,
Sure.
What would you like to see a little less of, if anything? You can be honest.
Paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, listen, paperwork.
I know some of it's the state.
Same.
Oh, I know. That's just what gets me.
Yeah. Honestly, that's probably at the state level, like conversations that they've been having. You know, we're part of that teacher culture and climate grant, and part of that work is just eliminating that administrative burden on teachers, right? The tasks, the paperwork, the submissions, it's a lot, and it takes away from the most important thing,
right?
Being with kids,
and just even finding ways to streamline things. I know. At the high school, we talked about like just even sending the attendance list for field trips, like doing it in a different way through Genesis. And it was a big time saver for me, but it was also a time saver for our attendance person. Just, we got to let go of some of the old systems, just because it worked in, 10 years ago doesn't mean it still works now or is needed.
Right. No, absolutely. Like there's got to be a purpose, right? And if there's no purpose, why do we still do it?
That's why I ask myself all the time.
Yeah. Well, if we get trapped, right, it's human nature.
It's hard.
Yeah. If you could travel back in time and be a student at Leonia High School for one day, you get one day to be a student, whose class would you want to sit in on? Who's that colleague that really inspires you on how they kind of teach and connect with kids?
Okay, so I think a lot of people will be surprised by this answer because I think everyone is going to assume I'm going to answer it one way.
Okay.
But I'd love to visit when Adrian Stein was actually a teacher at Leonia High School because I worked with Adrian so much over the years with the AP scores, helping students, making sure we're getting them into the right programs. But she was a math teacher. I'd be so interested. Well, first of all, I can't do math to save my life. But one of our custodians had Miss Stein as a teacher, and he said she was like the best teacher at the high school, and she really helped him. But I would love to see her as a teacher because I've only seen her as, the school administrator side, but also she's not in the math side. So it's not like working with Mr. Cullen where I still see him as a teacher. I've never seen her as a teacher. So I would be really interested to see what she used to do.
Interesting. I would have not guessed that that's the route you were going, but that's really cool. Like, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know you said the custodial side of it. Like, I didn't know that, that was out there. Right. So that's really, I want to do the same. Can we go together one day?
Feel free, because her and I talked so much about history. So we just went to DC and she's like, oh, when you go to Manassas, you got to go see this. You got to go see this. So I only have those history conversations with her and like the student conversation. So I'm like, I really want to see what you were like as a math teacher.
Yeah.
And maybe I would have learned something.
We'll get her in front of a math classroom one day so you can see if she can dust off the skills.
Well, one day I was with her and a teacher came in. They were talking about this stuff with the calculators. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know a calculator can do that. I'm stuck with 2 plus 2.
Yeah, I mean, my
That's
phone
my
calculator.
advance.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyone else that you would want to see?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Okay, that's okay.
You know, it's hard because some of the older teachers that I started working with have since retired. So I don't really have, I'll have to get back on you. Next episode I come on. I'll let you know.
Yep. Okay, I'm in. Next episode. I like that you just committed yourself to another episode.
Yeah, this
I love
is
that.
how I get myself in trouble.
No, listen, I love that. Miguel's using the features. I love that too. All right, so let's wrap it up. Final thoughts, okay? We have 2 questions that we ask all of our guests.
Okay.
All right. First one, who should be next on our on an upcoming episode?
All right. So one of my students, he's also my TA this year. I would speak to Aiden Sheridan.
Okay.
He has a really unique perspective of being in the Humanities Academy, but also just engaging in the different groups at Leonia High School, being in the different clubs and different programs. And I think he'll offer like a really interesting insight to what it's like to be a junior at Leonia High School.
Okay.
What it's like to prepare for getting ready for college.
Great. Write that down. Got it. Okay. Did you say, did you have another one or did you say, oh.
I would also, if you wanted, I think you should ask Sophia Jurek. She is a sophomore. She's also, yes, she's a sophomore. It took me a second to think about that. And she's one of my top AP Euro students this year, and she works so hard, but she's also in the musical. She does all this stuff with singers. So she would give such an interesting perspective to, our theater program as well as our music program, which always does so well every year.
They're amazing. Every time I see those kids perform, I'm just in awe. Every time they exceed my expectations. Every time I think, oh, this will be like last year. Nope. Above and beyond every time.
Yeah, they work so hard, and she would give you such a great insight to that.
Cool. Absolutely. All right. So then our final question for you, like many great projects, this podcast started as a star on my whiteboard. It was on a whiteboard and Miguel had to choose what project he wanted to work on, and this was it. What's your star on your whiteboard right now? What's your next big dream that you're chasing?
So the sabbatical is one of them, but in my mind, I've already laid the foundation for that.
Yep. I would put a little check on that one. Yeah.
I have like half a smiley face and the start of a packing list.
Yeah. Smart.
And I'm trying to figure out how many suitcases I can put on the plane. But I really would love to this year, for my goal for 26 is to start my own PD business and start maybe working with other districts and working on how do you work with the great teachers that you have? How do you do reading and writing better in history? How do you just take a simple strategy and prepare your AP kids for that? Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the one thing most teachers struggle with outside of this district. And I would love to bring like my experiences to that and kind of also start seeing what life is like outside of the classroom part of teaching. So I'd like to eventually start my own consulting business for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot more opportunities now when I think about retirement, right? Which when I think about retirement, I think about how far it is, but it's so far, but our kind of generation of people, we have more opportunities to expand outside of just being retired or not being retired. Right. So it's good that you're starting at this stage thinking about, what's next. Because that what's next is going to come real quick.
Well, the last 10 years has gone quick here.
Yeah.
I feel like I just graduated and I feel like I just started. I just said to Miguel before, I'm like, when did you become a senior? Because I don't remember it.
Yeah, time flies. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to touch on? Anything we missed?
One thing I think you should know about Leonia, anyone who is listening to this, whether you're a parent, student, you're somebody who's thinking about coming here, but I would say this to anyone who is thinking of coming here professionally, and I felt this way for a really long time, if you can dream something, Leonia can come up with that possibility for you. And I've seen our administrators and our teachers go out of their way for students. If they want to come up with something at the high school as a SIP, they can do it. If you want to work here, you can do it. And professionally, I don't think I would have been the teacher I am today if it wasn't for the support that I had in Leonia. So I would tell everybody to come here. But also, if you want to step out that very traditional teaching box, this is the place. So my high school smile is it's the place to be. Well, Leonia is really the place to be. So I hope you guys all come to Leonia and maybe start buying some houses here, coming to Edgewater, doing all that, because this is a great district to work in.
Lauren, that was so beautifully said. I kind of teared up a little bit.
But I mean it. I truly do mean that.
I really appreciate that. That's something, I've been here 5 years now, and that's the one thing that keeps me here. One of many things that keeps me here is just the opportunities that we give staff, that we give kids here is not like anywhere else. And we, as a district, need to better advertise ourselves to show the great opportunities that we provide here. So I appreciate you saying that.
Anytime. I sincerely mean that. Miguel has heard me say this multiple times.
Yeah.
He's shaking his head over there like, yes, I've heard this.
Well, that was a great way to end it. Great way to end the episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our producer, Miguel. And we will see you next time on our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Good day.